I never thought my past as a Navy SEAL would matter in a quiet, peaceful neighborhood. But one afternoon, it all came back in the most violent way. 3 fake cops wearing tactical vests stormed onto my property, pretending they were there to enforce HOA rules. And one of them made the biggest mistake of his life. He punched my wife Sarah right in the ribs. Before we get into it, comment which country you're watching from. Let's see how far this story travels. It began like any normal Friday. Sarah had just come home from grocery shopping. I heard her light footsteps on the porch as she carried a few paper bags, humming softly. Everything was calm, until a black SUV rolled into our driveway. 3 men stepped out. Each wore a tactical vest that said HOA Enforcement Unit. No police badges, no real signs, just fake gear and too much confidence. Sarah froze when the first man, tall, square-jawed, dark sunglasses, walked right up to her. "Ma'am, we're here under HOA orders," he said firmly. "You violated Property Code 14C, unapproved exterior changes." Sarah frowned. "You mean the flower pots?" she asked. He ignored her. "We need to inspect the property. Move aside." Sarah didn't move an inch. Her voice stayed calm, exactly how I'd trained her years ago. "You're trespassing. You don't have a warrant. This is private property. Under Texas Penal Code 305, that's a crime." Instead of backing off, he took a step closer and placed his hand on his baton. When Sarah pulled out her phone to record, he slapped it out of her hand. The phone hit the porch and cracked. Then, with the same motion, he smacked the grocery bags from her arms. Apples rolled across the porch. Before she could even speak, he punched her hard in the ribs. Sarah gasped in pain and screamed. That scream flipped a switch in my head. I dropped everything and sprinted from the living room toward the door. My M4 rifle was locked but ready, legal, trained and familiar, the same weapon I'd used for over 10 years in service. When I burst through the front door, I saw them cornering Sarah. 2 men were trying to grab her arms while she struggled to breathe. I raised my rifle. "Drop your gear now. The HOA president told us you've been ignoring rules. We're here to make sure you comply." That was enough for me. "Back away from my wife. You're trespassing, assaulting a civilian, and pretending to be law enforcement." He smirked. "She's detained for obstructing HOA enforcement." He didn't get to finish his sentence. The click of my safety switch echoed through the porch. My voice stayed cold and steady. "You just made the last mistake of your life." When his hand twitched toward Sarah again, I fired. 3 sharp bursts cracked through the air, fast, clean, controlled. 2 bullets hit, one in the shoulder, one in the leg. The third man dove behind the SUV as glass shattered around him. "Get down," I yelled, pulling Sarah behind me. The 2 injured men groaned on the ground, clutching their wounds. The leader dropped his fake baton, hands raised halfway. "You're dead, man," he barked. "You just shot at officers. Real cops don't wear airsoft gear," I snapped. He lunged forward. "Bad move." I let the rifle hang from its sling, stepped in close, and drove my knee hard into his stomach. He folded instantly. I grabbed his vest, slammed him against the SUV hood, and landed an elbow straight across his jaw. He hit the ground and didn't get up. The only sounds left were Sarah's heavy breathing and the faint ringing in my ears. My training took over. Muzzle down, secure the area, neutralize threats. I kicked their fake weapons away, plastic batons, and cheap handcuffs. Then I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. "This is a self-defense shooting," I said quickly. 3 suspects pretending to be police officers. My wife's been assaulted. Send deputies and EMS. Sarah stood beside me, trembling but strong. "They said they were HOA enforcement," she whispered. "Not anymore," I replied. Within minutes, sirens filled the air. Neighbors peeked out with their phones recording. The black SUV sat in our driveway, riddled with bullet holes. 2 police cruisers arrived fast. Deputies jumped out, weapons drawn. "Hands where we can see them," one shouted. I raised my hands. "Shooters me. Navy SEAL. Weapons safe. Victims of impersonation and assault." They quickly secured the scene, cuffed the injured men, and called for medics. One deputy picked up a fake badge that read Community Enforcement Officer. He shook his head. "These idiots printed this on a home printer." Sarah gave her statement while the deputies gathered evidence. My doorbell camera had caught everything. The assault, the fake gear, the shots. The sheriff arrived soon after. Gray hair, calm eyes, and a firm voice. He looked over the scene and nodded. "Looks like one hell of a mess," he said. "Tell me everything." And I did. Every brutal second of it. But this was only the beginning. By the next morning, the whole neighborhood was talking about what had happened. Word spread fast. 3 fake cops arrested at my house, 1 wounded, and my wife in the hospital. Sarah had 3 fractured ribs, 1 almost displaced. The doctor said it was from a direct hit, a closed fist strike. Hearing that made my stomach twist. She tried to smile when I came to see her, but I could tell she was in pain.
"Hey," I whispered, sitting beside her. "You scared the life out of me," she said softly, trying to joke. I held her hand carefully. "They'll never touch you again, I promise." Outside, our quiet suburban street had turned into a crime scene. Yellow tape, flashing lights, camera crews. It looked like something out of a TV show. Deputies collected shell casings and documented everything. The black SUV the fake officers drove was riddled with holes, its glass shattered and tires flat. All three suspects were in custody. The one hit in the leg was stable. The shoulder wound had been patched. The leader, the tall one I fought hand to hand, had a broken jaw and a dislocated arm. None of the injuries were fatal, but they were enough to keep them quiet. The county prosecutor wasted no time. The charges were serious. Impersonating a peace officer, Texas Penal Code 3711, aggravated assault with bodily injury, criminal trespass. Since they wore fake uniforms and attacked an innocent woman, bail was denied. But that wasn't the end. 2 days later, as Sarah rested at home, a black sedan pulled up outside. Out stepped Karen Ellis, the HOA president, a sharp woman in her 50s with a camera crew behind her. She looked angry but smug, like she was the victim. She stood at the end of my driveway and started speaking loudly into the microphone. "This homeowner endangered our community," she said. "He opened fire on HOA contractors who were only trying to do their job." I almost laughed at the nerve of her. Those weren't contractors, they were criminals she had hired. My neighbor Mark was filming everything from across the street. "You sure you want to lie on camera, Karen?" he shouted. "We saw everything." Karen ignored him. She waved papers in the air. "We're taking legal action. The HOA won't tolerate violence." The arrogance in her voice made my blood boil. Later that evening, my lawyer came over, a retired military attorney named James Porter, a former JAG officer. He was calm, confident, and had that look of a man who'd seen plenty of courtroom battles. He dropped the documents on the table. "Karen filed a civil lawsuit against you," he said. "She's claiming reckless endangerment and property damage. Says her security team was legally hired." I sighed. "They beat my wife and pretended to be cops. She really wants to go to war?" Porter smiled faintly. "Then we'll give her one, legally." Over the next few weeks he gathered everything, police reports, hospital files, and the footage from my security cameras. The videos were clear. Every second of the assault, every fake badge, every blow. When the court day arrived, Karen came dressed like a politician. Pearls, blazer, perfect hair. She looked confident. But once the evidence started playing on the screen, her face went pale. The footage showed her enforcers slapping Sarah's phone, throwing her groceries, and punching her in the ribs. Then it showed my response. Controlled and precise. The courtroom fell silent. The prosecutor presented the SUV's registration, traced to a fake company funded directly by the HOA. The payment authorization, signed by Karen Ellis herself. She tried to defend herself. "I didn't tell them to hurt anyone. I only wanted them to enforce the rules." But the evidence was too strong. The judge leaned forward, unimpressed. "Mrs. Ellis, you didn't hire licensed officers. You hired criminals. Your lawsuit is dismissed. You'll now face your own criminal charges for conspiracy and misuse of HOA funds." Karen's mouth fell open. "That's not fair. I was trying to protect the neighborhood." The gavel hit the desk with a sharp crack. Karen was arrested on the spot. Deputies escorted her out while cameras flashed. The entire courtroom watched in silence as the woman who had caused all this chaos realized her empire was collapsing. As we left the courthouse, Porter grinned. "Told you it would blow up in her face." Karen's arrest spread across the county like wildfire. The headline read, "HOA president hired fake cops to attack veteran's family." It shocked everyone. The once powerful HOA leader was now facing serious charges: conspiracy, misuse of funds, and organized crime. The HOA board called an emergency meeting the same day. Without debate, they voted her out as president. No one wanted to defend her anymore. At home, Sarah was finally recovering. Her ribs were still wrapped, but she could breathe better. Every morning I made her coffee and tried to keep things normal again. "I still can't believe it," she said softly. "All this, just because of flower pots." I smiled. "They picked the wrong house, that's for sure." Meanwhile, the fake officers had started talking. They took plea deals to avoid long sentences. Each one admitted that Karen Ellis had hired them under a fake HOA security contract. She told them to teach the homeowner a lesson and make him comply. Their testimonies sealed her fate. In court, the evidence spoke louder than words. The SUV they drove was traced to a company funded by HOA money. The payment approval, signed by Karen herself. The judge looked tired as he read through it all. "Mrs. Ellis," he said, "you abused your power, endangered lives, and broke the law. You are sentenced to 5 years in state prison and must pay $62,000 in damages." Karen's face turned pale. "I didn't mean for anyone to get hurt," she cried. But no one believed her anymore. Deputies led her out of the courtroom as cameras flashed. Outside, reporters surrounded me and Sarah. "Do you forgive her?" one asked. Sarah looked straight at the camera. "I don't want revenge," she said softly. "I just want peace." That short sentence went viral online. People across the country called her brave. Even state lawmakers took notice. Soon new rules were passed requiring HOAs to verify all contractors and report their activities to local police. A few weeks later, things started to calm down. The crime tape came down. The driveway was repaired. The neighbors who once stayed silent now waved when they saw us. One evening, Sarah joined me on the porch. The same porch where everything had started. She stood beside the flower pots, the ones that caused all this chaos. They tried to break us, she said quietly. I nodded. They forgot who we are. We watched the sunset in silence, the warm light spreading over the yard. It felt peaceful again. Finally, the sheriff stopped by before dark, holding a copy of the final police report. You handled it well, he said. Could have been a lot worse. I didn't want a fight, I told him, but I wasn't going to let anyone hurt my wife. He smiled. That's what makes you who you are. After he left, Sarah leaned on my shoulder. Her breathing was steady now, her strength back. They learned the hard way, she whispered. Never mess with a soldier's family. I looked at her, proud and grateful. No fake badge, no rule, no HOA will ever cross that line again. That night, for the first time in weeks, the house was quiet. No sirens, no cameras, just peace. And as I closed my eyes, one thought stayed with me. Sometimes your past doesn't haunt you. Sometimes it saves you.